I'm replacing the solid rear window on my it's a 2015 Nissan Frontier. This is the king cab. I assume the quad cab would not be much different, except maybe the way the back seats are attached inside the cab. But here I've taken off the seat backs, I've taken out this whole back wall right here. I had to remove the jack to do that, and I've taken out the pillar covers right here. I had to unbolt that seat belt to get to that. And what I've discovered, I know if you go on YouTube and you will find videos telling you how to do these, basically they're a glued in window. This is literally a sheet of glass that is glued into the vehicle. But one of the keys I discovered is in these lower corners, if I can get the camera to focus, there we go, there's a plastic attachment to the glass that actually you have to pinch and push back through a hole in the frame. That's actually how it's located on both of these bottom corners. You can kind of see that one better. And then up here, hold on, let me get a better position here. In the upper corner, there's a locator as well that I believe, yeah, also has that pinch type of anchoring. And the other thing I've discovered is you'll watch these videos and they'll talk about having to cut this I think it's urethane or something like that holds it in. I'm literally using just a cheap plastic wedge like you use for, I don't know, you get them like for installing car radios and stuff. And I took a mallet and I put it here in the middle, and the whole bottom popped loose. I don't know if this is just a Nissan thing or the age of the vehicle, or maybe it was made on a Friday or a Monday, but there isn't really much gluing it in except there's kind of a extra bead of it right there. So I'm just going around with these plastic things. I've got the roll of fiberglass insulation on the other side just so I don't have it fall in and smash when it comes loose. But it's coming out way easier than they'll show you in the videos with all kinds of cutting and stuff. Just something interesting. So here it is out of the truck, and as I was showing you before, they get these plastic locators. These actually have a squeeze function. Come on, focus, to make them lock. And they're just also glued to the window with the same sealant that is used to hold the window in itself. That's also, this is the top ones, and that came off, but that's the bottom one, and that's all they held on. And then the next thing is how thick of a bead you have right here. Got to take a razor blade and very carefully trim this down as thin as possible without scratching the metal up. That's the advantage to using, or I started this with a metal like paint scraper, chisel, flat blade, putty knife type of thing. But once I managed to get it through, like a big section disengaged, so I switched over to plastic, and that's all it took. So you see the holes where the anchors go into, to basically pop this loose all the way around. That corner over there gave me the most trouble, and I'm not sure why, but it seemed to be stuck better than the rest. But once it all came free, it came out pretty easily. So my new window came packaged very well. Got it off of eBay. This foam was all the way around the outside edge, and it was inside of a cardboard box on top of that. It also comes with 2 tubes of this sealant and the nozzles. Just going to need a like a caulking gun to actually push it out. So if you remember, the old window had those locator pins. As you can see, a sliding rear window with a neat little hatch. And the interesting things about it is, as you pull the window over to the side, if you see there's a dog leg in the track, So the window actually pops in flush, almost like a porthole, when it actually is sealed like that. But there's no locator pins, and I was looking at these at first thinking, well, maybe these are supposed to sit on the windowsill, but they're actually not. They're supposed to sit above it. So you want your sealant in this range all the way around. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to shim underneath the glass when it's taped in place while this is curing. So I know when you watch the videos, it seems like some people debate whether or not the adhesive should go on the window or on the vehicle frame. I would definitely say the vehicle frame, to make sure that you are going to have a good bead sealing all the way around the way it's supposed to, because that's actually a fairly narrow channel to land on correctly. And if anything, those plastic standoffs that were underneath the window, you want them sitting on top of the metal, not anywhere behind it. So the very edges, the bottom edges of them need to be on this. At basically, that's where to set it. So you need to be very careful about, obviously, your sides. Make sure you have an overlap on the top, because really the glass fits in here in a very flush fashion. Like if you look at these doors, the suicide doors, you can actually see that there's just a very thin gap. So that's what I'm looking for. So I'm actually gonna find something that is the right thickness to fit under there, and when I put the glass in, it will hold the window in the right position and it won't want to sag down because those shims are under it. So next step, cut away glue and get ready to apply the new adhesive after I clean everything. So when you're cutting, you want the tip of your knife when you're cutting the adhesive just peeking above the edge, so you're not likely to scrape it. Just to give you an idea, let me get this to, you can see the thickness that's being cut away here. So we're looking at almost 1/4 of an inch. I don't know how many millimeters that is, but it's thick enough. That's what you need to be cutting away, and leaving just a thin, I might even try and cut this further, but leaving something very thin behind it so the glass will sit down flush into this recess and have a good bond. So I've got the sealant cut away. As you can see, I was just kind of laying it here on the window, just verifying everything is the same size, if there's anywhere I had to, you know, play with or something, but it looks like it's going to be perfect. And you can see the thickness I cut away, and I'm left with just a very, very thin layer on the truck. If you gouge the metal or scratch it, this is the time you definitely need to be touching it up. But I actually got away with nothing serious. So now we'll wipe this all down with alcohol and get it prepped and put the new sealant on. So I've got everything set up, but I went ahead and I masked all around the window because I read that on some other people who installed windows, that it's a good idea because you don't want to get sealant on the paint where you don't want it. So I went ahead and did. Figured worst thing that happens is I wasted some tape, but it's much better than driving around with ugly black smudges where I didn't want them. So next thing is to apply the sealant. So here we've got tape, we get the sealant. I wish it was a better bead, but this stuff came out really thick. And I've got loops of tape ready to go to pull down over the window and tape it in place while the sealant cures. Okay, so here we go. We have it in place, and tape strips holding it so it doesn't sag. Hopefully also means it shouldn't pop out. And what we did is we put it up in place. These cardboard shims gave us our nice edge gap, so it's not touching the metal anywhere around. Same thing on these, because if you wedge it, notice the way that this is tapered on both sides. If you wedge it like that and you make sure it's not touching on top, you've got it. And I made sure I had an extra thick bead of sealant across the top, which is why you see little bits of it peeling up, pushing up right here. But it is well sealed, and set in place. And then once we got it in place, got a little bit right here I'll have to clean up, but the tape got the worst of anything else. We held it in place for 2 minutes just to make sure it was good and set into the glue, pushing in particular up along the top on the glass, because this top edge and down here is what I consider the most important, because that is what keeps the rain out. So you definitely want to have that, so that it's all good and sealed. And now I'm just gonna have to wait for it to cure. I don't know how long that is. I'll have to read the manufacturer's instructions, because it didn't come with it, but they give you a website to look at on the tube, which I didn't have time to look up after I started, before I realized. And this should be set in place. It's an awesome window, and I'll show you how it works. So this is what's funny. On the outside, this window looks like tiny, and I do think this window, because of the blacked off area here, I might have a slightly smaller opening for light, but really you got your headrest here and this plastic trim up here, so I'm really not too worried about that. Looks like I got the height just right on these two spacers. That's perfect. And as you can see, I've got sealant making a good seal all the way around, which is what I was looking for. But the way the window operates is you have these two latches, you squeeze them together, and when you pull the window, first thing it does is actually come in. It's just part of the neat way that it's sealed. Is much better than like the old split windows trucks used to have. Also makes it so it's very hard to break into, because the way the latches work. But as I showed before, you get, I can't really see it, don't have good contrast here, but I'll show you the way it closes from the outside here in a second. So here you can see the way the window is a little bit set back, but this last little part right here, as you push, the window just popped in, and now the glass is practically flush. The other nice thing is it has locks, so you can have just a little bit of air. Nobody can steal anything really that way. A little bit bigger, maybe you want to keep a kid or a dog from sticking their head through. And basically all the way with just a slight overlap there on the end. But I had a split window, the old style ones on my old trucks, and I always loved them. And yes, it looks all very small, but that's all you need, because the big thing I got it for is the airflow. I mean, if you've ever driven with one, you'll know that you crack your side windows, and you get a breeze through the cab that is so nice. On the highway, it helps quiet things out. I have vent shades, and with the vent shades and that on the highway, it is so nice. The airflow right through there. I had a truck without air conditioning. I was in Maine, but without air conditioning and with that rear window, I never had to worry about being too hot. You know, even the 2 weeks a year when it actually gets hot in Maine, were not a problem. Now I live where I do need air conditioning, but this will extend the amount of time that I don't need air conditioning, which, with the high price of gas and a pickup truck that doesn't get the greatest mileage, this will save me some money. I definitely think it's going to pay for itself. So there it is. It's been on the highway. I've driven it around. It's actually very comfortable. Seals up nicely, and I believe we're getting a rainstorm tomorrow, so get a good leak check on it. But gave it a good push this morning, and just made sure nothing was loose. The glue was good, and everything is sealed tightly as far as I can tell. And I love the airflow on the road. It's interesting. I'm not sure this is the exact window that's on the, if you buy it from the factory. I think this was a used window, but definitely gonna keep my eyes out now and see what the other trucks have. Looking at the inside here with everything installed, I decided to keep the headrest off behind the driver, just because it would kind of interfere with getting to the latch when it was open. And if anybody ever is gonna ride, my kids are getting bigger now, if anybody ever is gonna ride in these little jump seats, it'll be on the passenger side, because I ride with my seat so far back, they wouldn't fit in there unless I had to really crunch my knees up to get them in. So that's what it looks like, and I really like it. So this here is the test. You get to test and see with a good rainy day if I got any leaks. And it looks good. That's the best way to do it.